Incredible twist, poor girl saves Mafia boss's mother from rival gang, revealing a hidden hero. Mia Rodriguez wasn't thinking about heroes when she stepped out into the storm that night. The rain lashed against her face as she delivered the groceries for her second job that week, her only weapon against hardship being sheer determination. Every sound in the bleak streets of her neighborhood echoed with the undercurrent of violence that was all too familiar. But on this fateful night, as she turned the corner, a primal instinct ignited within her. The thump of bass reverberated through the air, but it wasn't music. Yells and shouts layered over the pounding rain cut through the unease hanging in her chest. Instinctively, she crouched low, her heart leaping as the voices grew louder. They spoke of blood, of loyalty, of a life Mia had hoped to escape, that of the Mafia running wild in her city. Suddenly, the scene unfolded before her. Vincent Moretti, the infamous mob boss, confronted by the figures drenched in shadows, an icy wind swept through Mia's mind, intertwining fear and the steel tether of a lingering hope. Would a mere girl like her think of jumping into this chaos? No. But then she saw Luciana, Vincent's vulnerable mother, pushed aside like refuse. Something inside her snapped, as if an anchor had lifted, unmooring her from fear to action. Get away from her! Mia shouted, her voice barely cutting through the downpour yet unyielding. The moment she charged forward felt like a weightless leap, a folly of bravery driven by survival rather than rational thought. But instinct, thick and maelstrom-like, propelled her. For a heartbeat, time slowed. Every ounce of her being screamed for her to flee, yet here she was, fingers reaching for the frail figure of Luciana, pulling her away from the clenched fists that meant harm. In that split second, a swell of confusion collided against the grim resolve forged by years of supporting her ailing mother through adversity. Before she could grasp the gravity of her actions, chaos erupted. Bodies collided through the night rain, both sides dying for blood and power while Mia stood, helplessly entangled in their strife. The rush of adrenaline flooded her veins, mingling with bile as she realized her unwilling descent into an abyss she had always feared. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The pandemonium blurred around her. Uncertainty rose like bile, churning in her stomach. Would she pay for this reckless bravery? As sirens wailed distantly, an unsettling realization struck her. Vincent's grateful gaze pierced through the chaos. His gratitude was the last thing she wanted. The deeper he pulled her into his world, the more treacherous her choices became. All she wanted was to breathe free of this life, to work hard for her mother's recovery and make it through school, yet she could feel the allure of escaping her struggles tugging insistently at the edges of her conscience. But was that escape worth drowning in blood? A storm of conflicting emotions surged within, desire for change, gripping fear, an untamed anger that stirred memories of her father's imprisonment and injustice that had cast a heavy shadow over their lives. Mia stood there, still trembling amidst the chaos, knowing she had crossed a line. Now, the fight ahead wasn't just for survival but a reckoning to confront the past lurking in the dark corners of her life. As the storm continued to rage outside, it reflected the turbulent war within her. She was teetering on the brink, caught between the ideals of justice and the moral grayness she never expected to confront. What would she risk for her family's redemption? Would her choice shatter their already fragile existence or forge a new path of fierce loyalty? In that moment, the air thickened with dread, leaving her to wonder if she'd step forward into the fire or retreat back into the shadows. Mia felt the weight of the world press down upon her as the rain fell harder, a relentless reminder of the violence she'd just thrust herself into. The chaos around her began to fade into the background, leaving her with a singular focus. What would she do now? The sirens wailed, growing louder as they approached, a jarring contrast to the storm's rhythm. But Mia wasn't ready to run. Not now, not after standing up for Luciana. She locked eyes with Vincent Moretti, his face a mix of disbelief and newfound respect. In that instant, she recognized what she had unlocked more than just her own bravery. She had stirred something within him, a depth she hadn't anticipated. A powerful bond tethered them, forged in fear yet tempered by an unexpected alliance. It was intoxicating, this glimpse into a world she both despised and was tempted to join. But how far into this darkness was she willing to venture? Every flutter in her chest reminded her of the stakes involved. Her mother's health hung by a thread, and every hour she spent entangled in this dangerous web could jeopardize their fragile existence. The relentless pursuit of freedom churned within her mind, yet here she stood, on the precipice of something monumental. Mia stumbled away from the fray, her instincts driving her toward the glow of a street lamp that illuminated the shards of her reality. She clutched Luciana's frail hand and shielded her from the storm, breathing deeply. Each breath cleared a path through the chaos in her thoughts. She focused on Luciana, whose eyes sparkled with gratitude, muffled whispers escaping her lips. Her mother's plight echoed in Mia's heart, a reminder of why she had braved a gang's fury for a stranger. "Why did you help me?" Luciana's voice trembled as it clashed with the thunder. I couldn't watch them hurt you," Mia responded, her voice cracking under the weight of her words. "I know what it's like to feel powerless." Luciana's gaze pierced through Mia, as if searching for a hidden truth. "You are not powerless. You have a light in you, mi querida." For the first time, Mia felt a rush of strength alongside her fear. Luciana's faith ignited a spark of potential within her, a piece of her that had long been neglected. Mia's determination to survive was now entwined with a purpose that felt almost regal. But the world of crime loomed larger than life, and as the sirens drew closer, she found herself questioning everything about her place within it. What if Vincent wanted more from her now? What would her new role entail? She clenched her fists, picturing her mother lying in bed, vulnerable and dependent on her strength. An image of her father haunted her thoughts, his mistakes weighed heavily on her conscience. Was rebellion against the mob true strength or just delusion? Mia knew she couldn't go back to her mundane life, not after crossing this threshold. Banded with Vincent, she felt the stirring of ambition, yet deeper within, a whisper cautioned her against the allure of crime. The battle now engulfed her psyche, her heart racing as she envisioned the choices ahead. Would she be a pawn in a game far more ruthless than she had ever navigated? Before she could spiral into uncertainty, the sound of footsteps sloshing through puddles pulled her from her reverie. Vincent was approaching with fiery determination. He was made of shadows and fury, yet showed her a flicker of loyalty that made her heart race. "Mia," he called softly, his eyes burning with intensity, "we need to talk." The weight of his words tethered her to this dangerous path. The moment fraught with expectation made her heart pound with a volatile mixture of fear and challenge. Here was the crossroads of her life, laid bare before her, the ultimate test of her moral compass. What choice would she make when the shadows came calling? How much of herself would she be willing to sacrifice for both her mother's survival and the truth lurking just out of sight? Mia felt a rush of anxiety intertwined with newfound strength as Vincent stepped closer, his presence a storm of unanswered questions and looming decisions. The rain continued its relentless percussion, mirroring the tumult within her. This was no longer a question of choosing sides in a fight, it was about defining herself amidst uncertainty. "We need a plan," Vincent asserted, his voice cutting through the storm. "They'll be looking for us." His urgency ignited a flicker of resolve in her chest. "Plan for what? A future in this madness? I can't just dive deeper into this world, Vincent." Her voice trembled, guided by equal parts fear and determination. The invitation to step into the dark was tangible, yet so was the instinct to retreat and protect what little she had left her mother's well-being. He studied her with an intensity that felt both protective and predatory. "This chaos isn't going away. If we want to protect Luciana and your mother, you need to understand what you're up against." Mia's thoughts raced. The man before her embodied an adrenaline-fueled life, filled with flashes of charisma and danger. Yet beneath that bravado lay vulnerability, a truth she sensed mirrored her own. "And you think I can handle this?" she challenged, folding her arms tightly in defiance. "More than you realize. You're already more capable than most," he replied, the conviction in his voice piercing through her doubts. For an instant, she allowed his words to sink in, like quicksilver igniting her spirit. Maybe she could be more. The thought thrilled her, yet simultaneously horrified. "Then show me," she dared, surprising herself with the challenge. It was an invitation to learn. The gravity of her situation dangled in the air, a delicate tightrope between empowerment and peril. Vincent's lips curled into a faint smile. "All right, but you have to trust me. Not just on this. I need you all in." "Just like that?" Mia countered. "You want me to trust you while we wade through shadows?" "Trust isn't given, it's earned," he answered, his gaze unwavering. "I'll show you who I am, and then you can decide if you're ready to follow." The irony of it all gnawed at Mia. To step into darkness, she needed to learn the very evils that threatened to consume her. A chilling realization gripped her, understanding the mob life was not merely an academic exercise, it would teach her survival tactics her father never could. "I have to protect Luciana," she murmured, accepting the intertwining fates that seemed to hover above them. "Then let us start with the basics. You need to know who your enemies are and their weaknesses," Vincent said, reaching into his pocket and retrieving a small file. "This isn't a game, Mia. You will take the reins of your destiny." As Mia scanned the file, containing photographs and intel of local rival factions, the weight of their shared reality pressed deeper. Fear twisted into fierce determination. She was no longer merely clinging to ambition, she was actively shaping it. A sudden thought crossed Mia's mind, one that gripped her with an unsettling clarity. What if, amidst the shadows, she found the courage to expose truth hidden in plain sight? Would she be strong enough to dismantle the web threatening her family? Vincent, sensing the change in her demeanor, leaned closer, urgency rising. "You can't backtrack now. We're flying into the storm, and I need you sharp." Mia nodded, committing to her wrestling journey through moral ambiguity. "No turning back," she whispered, the resolve of her new self fully recognized. Yet even as she found motivation in their sinister alliance, the flicker of doubt lingered. What lay beyond their immediate plan? Would her discoveries unlock a darker side of her character she hadn't anticipated? "Then we need to go now," Vincent urged, snapping her focus back. As they prepared to leave, Mia felt the storm not just outside, but within, an odyssey of choices and revelations that loomed over her. And as they stepped into the night, feet splashing through puddles, a new question formed in Mia's mind. Would this path lead her to the truth, or would it trap her within the very darkness she sought to escape? The atmosphere shifted as Mia and Vincent ventured through the damp streets, shadows swallowing their steps. Every alley and corner transformed into a potential stage for confrontation, heightened by the tension crackling between them. Mia clutched the file tightly, its contents burning a mark of urgency into her psyche. "Stay close and watch your surroundings," Vincent instructed, his voice low but commanding. The steady rhythm of the rain softened but did little to ease Mia's racing heart. This was a reconnaissance mission, but the stakes felt insurmountable, as if they were intruding upon a world she had only scratched the surface of until now. "Why are you so invested in all this?" she asked, not expecting an answer but needing to pry open a glimpse into his motives. She needed to understand the man steering her into the unknown. Vincent cast her a sidelong glance, his expression unreadable, but there was a flicker of something, vulnerability perhaps. "Because nobody escapes these ties. The moment you engage, you belong, whether you like it or not," he replied. Mia considered this, internally grappling with her own unwilling descent into a world wrapped in violence and silence. She realized this journey was quickly morphing into something more challenging. Each step into this life meant a fracture of the person she'd been. Could she truly navigate undercurrents that ran so deep? As they approached a corner, Vincent abruptly halted, gesturing for Mia to do the same. He scanned the area, his senses hyper-aware. Mia held her breath, letting the tension swell around them. "There," he whispered, pointing toward a group of men in dark jackets, leaning against the building wall. "Those are our targets," he said, slicing through the air with a decisive hand movement. Her pulse surged at the sight of the rival faction members, the very ones who could dismantle her plans and her family. "What do we do?" Her voice cracked, lost amidst a rush of conflicting emotions. Part of her recoiled at the very notion of confrontation, another part pulsed fiercely with empowerment. "Know their weaknesses," Vincent repeated, leaning closer to impart stealthy wisdom. "They run on fear and distrust. If you can expose that, they become vulnerable." Mia's mind raced back to the file, skimming through the names and connections it outlined. Few understood the power that knowledge could wield. It wasn't merely about combating these foes head-on, it was about finding the vectors to disrupt their foundation. "Expose like an investigator?" She pondered aloud, feeling tentative yet intrigued by the chaotic potential unfurling before her. "Exactly," Vincent affirmed, his eyes narrowing as he turned his attention back to the group. "But more than that, you're not just gathering evidence, you need to be a part of this. We need to orchestrate. You have to be brave enough to act." Bravery. The word echoed inside her. Here she was, scrambling to reconcile the pieces of her identity. Could courage be a choice, she claimed? It wasn't only about self-protection anymore, she began to see it as a deliberate strategy. A sudden thought ignited within her, the thought of facing the dark realities that lay ahead. Perhaps, in understanding them deeply, she could dismantle the very injustices they perpetuated. Would that enlightenment drive her beyond mere survival to something greater? Vincent broke through her reverie. "We won't have much time. If we wait too long, we lose our chance." As they edged closer, Mia felt a ripening sense of purpose entwined with adrenaline. She was crossing a threshold into danger, but the allure of finding a voice in the shadows intensified. It was not just about her family anymore, it was about rewriting her narrative. The chaos whispered promises of both empowerment and entitlement, a treacherous blend she could hardly navigate. What would happen if she succeeded in turning the tables? The weakness she'd once seen in her own life could become a beacon of resilience. With a quick nod, she steeled herself, succumbing to the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Let's do this," she affirmed, stepping with newfound conviction into the unfolding darkness at her side. Just as they were about to engage, a loud crash echoed through the alley, leaving Mia's heart in her throat. The night was about to unveil complicated truths. As they braced for impact, a haunting realization settled in: every choice, every action nestled within this storm, would tether Mia to a destiny she was only beginning to understand. How far would she go to uncover the truths hidden beneath the violence surrounding her? The crash reverberated through the alley, shaking Mia from her thoughts. The men in dark jackets turned, alerted by the sound, their postures shifting from casual to tense. Adrenaline surged within Mia as she instinctively fell into step beside Vincent, their previous conversation falling into the background noise of her racing heart. "Now or never," Vincent murmured, and for a fleeting moment, Mia locked eyes with him. The calmness that radiated from his gaze contrasted sharply with the chaos erupting around them. She grasped the file tighter, feeling the weight of both their expectations on her shoulders. They moved closer to the group, skillfully weaving between shadows, hearts pounding in sync. The rain, now mingling with their sweat, offered cover but also served as a constant reminder of the stakes. Every drop brought home the reality of their situation. This wasn't just about them. Lives hung in the balance. "Remember what I said about understanding their fear," Vincent whispered, barely audible over the far-off sirens. "They thrive where trust evaporates. Let it slip, it's your greatest weapon." Mia's mind raced with the implications of his words. She was no longer just a passive observer on this mission. Each decision carved a deeper path into an identity she was struggling to define. No longer was she simply Mia, she had to become a force they underestimated. As they encroached on the group's perimeter, Mia spotted the leader, a stocky man with a scarred face, eyes darting nervously as he scanned the alley. It was then she recognized an opportunity. The file contained information that could rattle him. A revelation surfaced, and she hesitated only a moment before stepping out of the shadows. "Looking for something?" she called out, her voice steady despite her heart's tempest. The men turned, surprise etched across their faces. Vincent immediately shifted his body stance, ready to react, but Mia raised a hand. She wouldn't back down now. Something inside had snapped into place, a sense of agency she hadn't known she could claim. "What are you doing here, girl?" the leader barked, eyes narrowing. "Just here to make some noise," she shot back. "Those ties you think are unbreakable? They fail to protect your precious business." The leader's expression twisted in confusion, then anger. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Then let us talk about it," Mia replied, her pulse steadying as the knowledge from the file surged back to her mind. "I know about your shipments and how they've been intercepted by a rival faction. Wasn't that what you're worried about tonight?" A flicker of panic crossed his features before he masked it with bravado. Vincent remained tense at her side, still calculating their path, yet Mia felt empowered by the risk she was taking. Slowly, reluctantly, she was realizing that her fears were an invaluable resource. She could use them as leverage. The tension in the air thickened, an electric charge that fed her determination. This confrontation was more than just about fear, it was about the exchange of strength. If she could challenge them, shake their foundation, then perhaps she could shift the tide in their favor. "Why take your chances?" she continued, emboldened by her own audacity. "If you act aggressively, it's the same as admitting your weaknesses. I can help you if you hear me out." The men in dark jackets glanced at one another, a ripple of uncertainty passing through them. Mia had thrown down a gauntlet, and an opportunity to bypass outright conflict surged in the air. Would they see it or dismiss her as just a girl who had overstepped? Vincent's shoulder brushed against hers, a silent assurance that she wasn't alone, despite the fears gnawing at her resolve. This was a crossroads, and she could feel the gravity of each moment echo throughout her future. Her next move would either entrench her deeper into this world or become a catalyst for her transformation. "Choose," she urged, her voice gaining strength. "Lay claim to your own destiny, or let it slip away. What will it be?" The silence stretched. Tension crackling. Would they confront her challenge, or would fear keep them shackled? As she stood on the edge of a precipice, Mia felt not just apprehension, but also fierce hope that she could reshape her fate among shadows that threatened to swallow her whole. In that harrowing moment of uncertainty, the distant echo of sirens grew closer. Mia understood time was not on their side. Would she seize this fortuitous pause, or would the moment shatter into violence? The clock was ticking, and her resolution would soon be tested. What new path would she forge as the shadows loomed closer, and the impending confrontation reached a turning point? The seconds felt like hours, each heartbeat reverberating with the weight of her challenge. Mia watched the leader's eyes flicker, recognition dawning as he processed her odds. It was a dangerous gamble, but she sensed something shifting. "Who do you think you are?" he finally sneered, though his bravado wavered, "Just a crack." "Someone who has the information you need," Mia replied, forcing herself to stand tall, willing her voice to carry authority despite her mounting trepidation. The tension had sculpted her into a poised figure, a stark contrast to the fear that had once governed her. Vincent glanced sideways at her, admiration and caution mingling in his demeanor. He recognized this spark igniting within her an active engagement with her identity. It was exactly what they needed. The men in jackets appeared to shift their weight, uncertain but intrigued, their previous vigilance punctured by her unexpected front. She could sense the tide turning, however imperceptibly. "Try me," the scarred leader grumbled. The challenge hung heavy in the air, but Mia felt a rush of adrenaline surge, a rare wave of confidence. Was this where her metamorphosis commenced? "I can help you outmaneuver the rival faction," she said, her voice steady. I know their next move. With precision, she recalled details from the file, her thoughts crystallizing the more she spoke. They've been tracking your shipments, waiting to cripple your operations. You can't afford to ignore this. The room had grown thick with disbelief. Adjustments in body language rippled through the group as they exchanged skeptical glances. This was both a moment of desperation and possibility. She could either negotiate their future or endanger them all. He studied her intently, and for the first time, vulnerability flickered across the harsh lines of his face. Mia seized it. The moment you underestimate me is the moment they strike. You're at a crossroads. Think of your empire collapsing or adapting. The leader's brows knitted together, processing her words while weighing the looming sirens, now in direct pursuit. The urgency echoed around them, and Mia grasped the advantage she had unwittingly created. Do you really want to lose everything? She pressed, her tone transforming from pleading to commanding, as though it had a life of its own. If you can't trust me, echo what I'm saying to your crew. Fear is nothing without strategy. Use what you have left. Let the unexpected guide you. A flicker of tumult waged in his mind, and that flicker was enough. The tension that had previously hovered like a parasite began to subside, the pulse of fear in the men's faces easing with consideration. All right, he snarled but nodded slowly, I'll hear you out, girl. But if this is a trick, his warning drifted into silence, the question left hanging, an unspoken clause in the air. Mia swallowed hard, meeting his gaze. She wasn't sure how far she believed in this newfound courage, but she breathed deeply, aware of the stakes. I won't trick you. I want to help. I've been underestimated too. Their collective hostility ebbed, and she felt the shadows fade, at least for now. With a coherent plan emerging from the chaos, Mia knew she could rally this fractured loyalty into something tangible. In an unexpected turn, the leader gestured toward the shadows behind him, as a sign of truce and fragile trust. We may have a common enemy, then. Now spill it. What's your plan? As the words tumbled from her mouth, something deep inside her shifted even further. She navigated a labyrinth of intelligence, weaving herself into their web with newfound clarity. No longer was she just Mia, she was becoming something formidable, a tactician crafting her narrative. But as she spoke, weaving threads of manipulation and strategy, another part of her wondered if this was truly who she wanted to become. Would her entanglement in this world reshape her spirit, or cement it? Every instinct told her to embrace the chaos, to transform her fear into power, but she felt the remnants of doubt swirling painfully beneath her newfound assertiveness. Then, suddenly, a shout pierced the tense air from down the alley as shadows shifted once more. A rival gang emerged, their intentions unmistakably hostile. The moment had come to truly engage, and Mia knew the impending conflict would either solidify her newfound identity or force her to flee from the very essence that had ignited within her. Prepare yourselves, she ordered, her voice firm yet quaking with an undercurrent of resolve. The stage was set for a clash, and as the rival gang advanced, the next chapter of her transformation waited, teetering on the brink of chaos. Would she cower, or rise to meet the storm head-on? The choice was hers, and the clock was ticking. The alley erupted with chaos as the rival gang surged forward, their intentions clear and the menacing grins plastered across their faces. Mia felt the surge of adrenaline course through her veins, melding fear with an insatiable need to prove herself. This was the moment that would define her, no longer a pawn in someone else's game but the strategic player on the board. Stick together. We need to flank them. Mia shouted, her voice echoing off the walls, cutting through the din of shouts and footfalls. The leader's group hesitated only for a moment before absorbing her orders. A subtle shift had occurred within their ranks, they were beginning to view her as more than just a girl with information, they were starting to see her as a leader. As the rival gang encroached, Mia's mind raced, strategizing on the fly. She eyed the terrain, scanning for tactical advantages. The dumpster to their left could serve as cover, and a stack of crates to their right created a vantage point. She shot a look toward Vincent, who nodded, understanding her silent command. Working in tandem, they positioned themselves strategically, redirecting the men into formation. The rival gang drew closer, but instead of the chaos enveloping her, she felt clarity. With each heartbeat, her wishes for autonomy flickered brighter. She wasn't just attempting to survive, she was embracing the fight. Focus on the lead runners. We'll take them down first and create a path. She called out, steeling her resolve. The first clash unfolded with unexpected ferocity. Mia's instincts kicked in, guiding her as she ducked and wove through strikes, adrenaline sharpening her reflexes. Each movement was calculated, each decision fueled by her growing confidence. Through the haze of battle, she saw one of the rival members reaching for a weapon, a glimmer of metal reflecting the dim alley light. In that moment, something deeper within her emerged, a raw determination that took the reins. "Vincent, cover me!" she shouted, breaking from the safety of their position. With an unexpected burst of speed, she lunged forward, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. She was aware of every breath, and the world seemed to tumble into slow motion. Fueled by a mix of tactical awareness and fierce bravery, Mia tackled the gang member just before he could get to his weapon. A tangle of limbs ensued, her fists connecting with his jaw in a flurry of desperate strikes, her growls echoing her resolve. Within moments, she pinned him down, her knee pressing into his shoulder, the rise and fall of her chest a tangible testament to her newfound agency. Victory surged through her, not just over him, but over her own limitations. The crowd of their adversaries momentarily faltered, stunned by her unexpected prowess. But this was merely the spark that lit the still volatile environment. The rival gang began regrouping, their numbers seeming to multiply at an alarming rate. Mia's mind raced with the urgency of rallying not just her fellow fighters but their fragmented hopes into a unified front. She refocused, stealing glances at the others as they regained composure. "We need to push. We're not just defending ourselves, we're taking back control." The men's expressions shifted. A glimmer of belief ignited among them, fueled by Mia's raw, unyielding spirit. She had transformed into the heart of their resurgence. They were no longer disjointed and fearful but a band of fighters reigniting their ambition. However, the distance between the two gangs narrowed, a yawning chasm of uncertainty remained under the surface. Could she fully lead them against an enemy larger than they anticipated? Was this the pinnacle of her evolution, or merely an interval of false bravado? Each thought wrestled for dominance in her mind as the rival leader emerged from the fray, a figure cloaked in menace, blasting their bravado. "Anyone left standing will regret this choice," he bellowed, a shrill reminder that her newfound identity was still precarious. As energy vibrated through the air, tension bubbled anew. A surge of determination coursed through Mia. The time had come to confront her doubts head-on, to challenge not just the tangible foes before her but also the shadows of uncertainty lingering in her mind. Suddenly, she caught sight of something that pulled at her gut, a figure binding the chaos of both worlds. The rival leader's eyes held an unexpected familiarity. Was this a connection she had overlooked? With her heart racing, she sensed the impending complexity of the battle before her, knowing that what lay ahead could unravel everything she had fought for or ignite a revelation that would forever alter her path. Mia's heart pounded fiercely as she faced the rival leader, the flickering adrenaline intertwining the fear of the unknown with a perplexing sense of nostalgia. Those eyes, they weren't just any eyes. They were familiar, sparking a buried memory that sent her mind swirling. While chaos unfolded around her, time seemed to crystallize in that instant. "Who are you?" she shouted over the fracas, her voice steady, though her heart thudded like a tribal drum. His smile was infuriatingly smug, but there was recognition there, too. "It's been a long time, Mia," he replied. The crowd's roar momentarily dulled, punctuating the gravity of his words. Her breath caught. Somehow, this connection was both an anchor and a snare. Memories flooded back of a time when they were just kids, living on the same streets, before their lives bifurcated into opposing factions. It felt utterly unreal that a familiar face now stood amidst such hostility. "I should have known you'd find your way into trouble," he mocked, but there was a glimmer of warmth that contradicted the snarling confrontation. No. This had shifted from a fight for survival to a personal vendetta. Her gut twisted at the thought that someone she had shared her childhood with could align himself against her. Anxiety escalated. Was this all a game to him, or did he truly hold stakes in this? Mia forced her mind back to the present. The men behind her were still in peril, awaiting a decisive command. Each passing moment heightened the tension, and as her adversary clenched his fists, muscles taut, she could feel the underlying threat. "Get back in formation. We fight," she ordered, trying to rein in the distraction swirling in her mind. There was no time for hesitation. Emotion had to be tucked away, buried beneath layers of strength and strategy. "You think you can lead them?" The rival leader grinned, eyes glinting like daggers. "You were always just a girl with a knack for escaping trouble." Something cracked inside her at those words, igniting a fierce resistance. The tentative belief others had begun to harbor in her was now her own armor. Exhaling deeply, determination bled into her every pore. "I am not your child to underestimate anymore." With that proclamation, she felt an electric charge. Her decisions were more than mere instincts. They were her identity defined through circumstance and experience. Tactics swirled inside her head as impossibilities slowly became options. The familiarity of the past now served as a catalyst rather than a chain. "Charge!" she boomed, adrenaline surging like wildfire through her veins. She'd once been a girl running from threats, now she was the lightning conductor of a storm. Mia found her rhythm amidst the chaos. Together with her group, she wove through openings in the fray, creating space and calculated blows, their synergy amplifying the sense of unity birthed from her earlier resolve. The tide began to shift, slowly pushing back against the looming dominance of the rival gang. But she couldn't shake the presence of that menacing familiar figure creeping ever closer through the throngs of bodies. He wasn't just a threat anymore, but a challenge to the very essence of her evolution. What did he want? To reclaim the innocence they shared, or to seize everything she'd fought for? Every tactic and maneuver shifted with growing urgency, thrusting her into a confrontation that felt all the more personal. Yet her internal resolve battled against her unease that childhood familiarity could just as easily become a poison as it could a bond. Caught between the duality of fear and resolve, Mia was pushed to confront not only her physical adversaries, but her own past. This was no longer a simple fight, it was a crucible for her burgeoning leadership and resilience. As the clamor enveloped her, she began to realize this battle might reveal not only the truths about her enemies but about herself. The rival leader was closing in, and with it, the impending revelation about whether she could truly emerge from the shadows of her past. Would she allow it to define her? Or would this confrontation forge a new identity? The stakes grew higher as her history collided with her present, leading her to wonder what was the true price of leadership. And just as this inner turmoil threatened to derail her focus, she felt a tug on her sleeve, drawing her back to the fray. "We need you, Mia," came Vincent's voice, assertive and anchored. Turning to face him, a wave of clarity washed over her. The answers she sought were woven not only in the conflict around her but in the choices still laid ahead. This moment could mark either her triumph or her surrender. Which path would she seize? The answer loomed closer, as chaotic and slippery as fate itself. Mia's instincts kicked in as Vincent's plea snapped her focus back to the chaotic battlefield unfolding around her. The stakes escalated, and her vision sharpened. This wasn't just about the physical fight anymore. Every blow and maneuver had to be infused with a sense of purpose, a commitment to lead not just driven by survival, but by the evolution of her very self. "Form a perimeter," she commanded sharply, observing the chaos to pin down opportunities. The rival leader lurked closer, a dark shadow mingling with her childhood memories, merging past and present in an unsettling clash. She couldn't afford to falter. The very thought sent a ripple of determination coursing through her. But his taunts echoed in her mind, laced with sardonic amusement. "You were always just a girl," Mia inhaled sharply, tempering anger into focus. Becoming merely defined by his words was not an option, she was done living in the shadow of outdated perceptions. As her team responded to her directives, she strategically assessed their skills. Caleb had an innate knack for combat, while Yara maneuvered like a hawk, each a vital piece in this sprawling tableau. Her connection with them, forged through shared struggles, fortified her resolve. They believed in her, which brought a powerful realization: leadership wasn't just a title, it was a bond magnified by mutual trust and respect. The rival leader advanced, wreckage amidst the remaining fighters. She felt his gaze digging into her, a collision of memories and current motivations. What did he want? To pull her back into a past that had shaped her but no longer fit? She squared her shoulders, allowing the tension to flicker within her. This was neither personal nor casual, it was a veritable proving ground. "Watch your flanks!" she shouted, making eye contact with Vincent. His steadfast presence reminded her that hiding behind old loyalties was no longer acceptable. If this fight was about reclaiming her narrative, she had to confront the very embodiment of her past despair. While guiding her group against the push of rival fighters, her stance was unwavering. "Together!" she shouted, slicing through despair with resolve, as they locked into an unbreakable line. Each face around her reflected a determination to fight for a future instead of a rehashed past. The street where she had played as a child now bore witness to her transformation. Each kick, each movement resonated with the echoes of that innocence, and now there was purpose behind them. Her childhood wasn't a chain, but a foundation. The revelation etched deep within her transformed the familiar pangs of nostalgia into fuel for her vigilance. Mia could sense the rival leader, a dangerous presence infiltrating the threshold of her newfound identity. "You'll never be more than they're willing to make you," he sneered, his voice low but cutting through the din. The words stung, yet instead of collapsing under his judgment, she could feel a different side of her emerging, one that was ready to challenge not only him but the narratives constricting her past. "Enough!" she shouted back. The sound rang through the air, filled with a fierce conviction that roared like a storm. A spark ignited within her, the words "no more fear" radiated through her veins. She was no longer dominated by the shadows of who others thought she should be. This was a defining moment, teetering on the edge of new identity and old doubts. The prospect of truly overcoming her past hung in the air, almost tangible. As she stepped forward, heart racing, she prepared to confront him directly. The moment of reckoning drew near. The clash wasn't merely physical but a test of her own convictions and self-worth. When the rival leader finally closed the distance, she felt the weight of what this encounter could mean. "Somewhere beneath that bravado, you know you've always been weaker." He spat, venom laced in his words. But as those accusations landed, an unexpected wave of clarity washed over Mia. His judgment only fueled her growing resolve. In that sharp exchange, she knew something had shifted within her. Now was not just about survival, it was about rejection, about dismantling anything that sought to define her. With an unexpected calmness, she prepared to unleash her repressed strength against him. Her deepest fear, remaining confined to historical shadows, was now the impetus for her advancement. As their eyes locked, she knew this confrontation would set the tone for everything that followed. "Let us settle this," she said, voice steady and unwavering, ready to meet the threat ahead. Would she emerge as a force of creation or as a prisoner of her own narrative? With the clash of intentions starkly laid out, the final pieces of her evolution were about to fall into place. A revelation awaited as they strode toward destiny, mirrored in combat. What would she discover as the night unfolded? Would the price of leadership ultimately demand more than she was prepared to pay? The confrontation reached its zenith as Mia faced the rival leader, the air thick with tension. The cacophony surrounding her fizzled into a low hum, allowing only the pounding of her heartbeat to echo in her ears. Each breath felt like a battle cry, a declaration of who she was and the path she had forged. "Let us settle this," she challenged, her voice steady and unwavering. The moment crystallized into a fierce clarity. She was no longer a frightened girl overwhelmed by darkness. The struggles of her past had unraveled her, yet they had also crafted a warrior ready to stand tall against her fate. He stepped forward, a low chuckle escaping him. "You really think you can take me on, Mia? You're just a girl with dreams that don't matter in this world." In that moment, the ache of his words was palpable, igniting a fire within her that refused to extinguish. It served as a punctuator, sealing the resolve she had been building. "That's where you're wrong," she said, her interior strength shining through. "I'm no longer defined by you or this life." Each word buoyed by her determination and the belief of those standing with her, she charged. She closed the distance, her movements a blur as she sidestepped his first strike, retaliating with a calculated punch that connected with a satisfying thud. Adrenaline surged, infusing her with newfound energy. The boy from the past who had once intertwined with her life had become a distance she could now traverse. As they exchanged blows, each strike was laced with purpose. Mia could feel the crowd of her allies watching, their trust in her building, solidifying the foundation she had worked tirelessly to create. She wasn't merely defending herself, she was reclaiming her narrative from the shadows that had once eclipsed her. The rival leader's smirk faded with every punch she threw. He underestimated her, just as she had once underestimated herself. "You've grown bolder, haven't you?" He spat, struggling to regain control. "But that won't save you." She squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. "This isn't about being bold. It's about your ignorance." She launched her fists vigorously, feeling the truth of her strength coursing through her veins. With each movement forward, she was dismantling not just him but the ghosts that had haunted her, severing ties with the fear that had shackled her for so long. Feeling momentum shift, the crowd erupted with renewed fervor behind her, cheering her on. Vincent's voice pierced through the chaos. "Keep pushing, Mia. You're almost there." Each scream of encouragement acted like a pulse, fueling her resolve further. With a quick sidestep, Mia dodged a powerful blow and seized the moment, grabbing the rival leader by the collar and pulling him close, her heated breath merging with the tension of the night. "You've lost control that night we parted ways, you can't dictate my future anymore." With that forceful statement, Mia unleashed a flurry of train strikes at critical spots, disabling him momentarily, a calculated tactic she had learned through the intense nights spent training with Vincent. Disarming him felt liberating, and she knew the tides had decisively turned. The rival leader staggered back, a flicker of disbelief crossing his features. "What have you done?" he croaked, the bravado now replaced with a desperate vulnerability, a direct contrast to the perception of invincibility he had once imposed. "I've discovered that I am more than what you or anyone has ever believed." Mia stood tall, blood pumping with both victory and a newfound sense of authority that was liberating. The echoes of past insecurities began to fade like the retreat of shadows at dawn. She had taken control of her destiny, forging a path out of the wreckage of fear and into the light of strength. With the crowd rallying around her, unity coursed through them, a sense of solidarity that ignited the room once filled with trepidation. They could see the transformation. Through her struggle emerged an unwavering leader, a hero crafted not from comfort but from adversity and their belief in her bolstered their courage. As the chaos settled momentarily, Mia stole a glance at Vincent. His expression reflected pride and recognition, affirming that together they could conquer the darkness that had surrounded them. "Now, let us finish this," she declared, turning her attention back to the rival leaders group. They charged forward as a unit, embodying the synergy they had built together. The fear that had once pushed Mia to retreat was now the fuel that propelled her into a future that shimmered with potential. The aftermath of that night would reverberate for years to come. Mia emerged not just victorious but transformed. She had conquered her sense of helplessness, vastly expanding her capabilities. The streets no longer felt tainted by shadows, but molded by the strength she had ignited within herself and the respect she had earned through her deeds. In the following weeks, Mia's newfound confidence translated into her day-to-day life. She saw through opportunities once cloaked in fear. She earned recognition at her job for both her diligence and leadership, quickly rising in the ranks as a young manager, a stark contrast to the survival days she had once lived. Her mother's health flourished under her unwavering advocacy in healthcare, and the balance of their lives shifted gently toward healing. She finally let go of the chains of her past, her father's mistakes, the shadows of the streets she once ran from. And as she walked through her neighborhood, a place she had trodden with trepidation, she now carried the grace of a woman who understood both the darkness and the light. The alley where she had once stood in fear became a testament to her resilience. "Mia!" Vincent called out of the distance one afternoon, a familiar voice that no longer echoed with threats but partnership and friendship. They met with shared laughter, their alliance solidifying into something that could withstand even the storms. "Ready for whatever comes next?" he asked, his eyes reflecting the journey they had conquered together. "More than ever," she replied, her voice steady, echoing with the assuredness of her choices. "Let us show them what we can do." In that moment, as they turned to the road ahead, Mia felt a profound sense of peace. She had conquered not just the shadows surrounding her but the fears within her. This was her journey toward redemption, a path strewn not only with adversity but with blooming strength and undeniable victory. Experience Mia's journey firsthand and witness such transformational stories firsthand. You need to subscribe now to follow the incredibility that unfolds next. Don't miss it. Leave a like now to fuel those of us daring to overcome life's challenges together. Comment your thoughts about this conclusion and share your interpretations. Your engagement matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who grapple with their own shadows, so we can shine light on their journeys. Don't wait even one more second to support this mission of inspiring individual growth.